Hi, I'm Smita Hemige, Head of Marketing at Answer. Answer is a global leader in helping enterprises set up their global capability centers. We help build, manage and scale global teams across all talent-rich hubs. Today in conversation with me is Mr. Rajesh Viswanathan, the Chief Technology Officer of Inovalon. Rajesh, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Rajesh Viswanathan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Inovalon. My background has been in large-scale distributed systems and cloud technologies. Prior to joining Inovalon, I was at Oracle and AWS. At Inovalon, we've been focused on leveraging the cloud and large-scale distributed systems to use data to help drive better patient outcomes and drive down the cost of healthcare.
Great to hear that, Rajesh. And there has been tremendous, progress in the area of healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're seeing, seamless connectivity between systems. We are seeing it becoming a lot more data-driven. There's a lot of focus around, patient centricity. And then we're also talking about the entire movement in the shift towards preemptive healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand from you, kind of mapping to what these trends are.
Mm-hmm.
How does the vision for Inovalon kind of tie in? And where do you see Inovalon playing in the years to come?
Yeah, one of Inovalon's biggest strengths, really, or maybe three of them, are one, the amount of connectivity we have into the really complex healthcare ecosystem in the United States. Two, the amount of expertise we have in the subject matter around healthcare. And three, the fact that we actually have primary source data. This is not data that we purchase. This is data that we have directly from the source systems that is being used to provide care to the patients. And the opportunity we have really is to kind of leverage this data and leverage our connectivity into the various entities in the healthcare ecosystem. So there's health plans, there's doctors, there's hospital systems, there's nurses, there's hospices, there's pharmacists, there's life sciences companies, there's pharmaceuticals. It's a really complex ecosystem. And our real advantage is that we are connected into each one of these entities in different ways. And we have the data that spans a patient's journey through these entities. And that helps us not just sort of reduce the costs of providing care to that patient, but eventually also helping improve the patient's outcomes. So we combine all of this under this umbrella offering that we call the Inovalon One platform. And by leveraging that, we can really focus on making sure that we're able to identify risks to the patient early, and then once we've identified those risks, help improve the outcomes for those patients, all while lowering the costs in the system for the healthcare that's provided.
It's extremely interesting. So you did touch upon the Inovalon One platform, but you also spoke a lot more around the primary data that you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've read, is that your platform actually uses over 100 data points
Mm-hmm.
to kind of go back and analyze to actually create better patient outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to understand, what are the other transformational capabilities that the platform possesses?
So let's take an example of how we can leverage that kind of data, right? We have all of these sources of data. I was taking a great example that may help explain this is what we can go do with just claims data for a patient, right? Like we have our health plans who are providing us claims data. For us to go run our analytics on. We've built over the years and with our experience a bunch of complex rules and increasingly AI models that allow us to go analyze those claims and be able to identify potential risk of condition burden that may not even have been identified by doctors. So we can go say, looking at Rajesh's claims, we see some risk of a certain disease that's not explicitly diagnosed yet. So we can then use that data to provide what we call an intervention plan to the physician. Hey, you should go, when you next meet Rajesh, go make sure that you're checking for this particular condition. And it'd be great if it's not there, but in case it's there, it's great that we found out early. So by doing that, we've made sure that Rajesh's condition, if there is any, was found early enough that he can get it addressed well before he enters what tends to be the sort of more expensive part of the healthcare spectrum, right? And B, obviously, it's fantastic for the cost to the system as well, because now by making sure that we're identifying, these situations earlier, you're not going to be ending up spending a lot more once you had Rajesh ended up in the, what I think of as the invasive part of the spectrum, where he's taking there's more invasive surgical procedures, etc. So that's kind of an example of how we can leverage data to really sort of improve the outcomes for the patient. So the Inovalon platform is a series of these kinds of capabilities that are baked in. And we can leverage the fact that because we've got this connectivity, we've got all of these health plans giving us this data that we can then go provide to the providers with data about the patient that now includes data from pharmacists that says, this patient is allergic to this thing, so be careful about the kind of care you're administering to him. Consider, those allergies when you're administering medications, say in an emergency use case where, there's an EMT situation and the technician has to administer something. It's really important for them to know that there may be an allergy situation to that particular medication. So really, there's a really large gamut of scenarios here where the care being given can be really improved by the availability of the data that we can provide. And we've gotten all of that from all of these use cases and these connections that we've built over the healthcare ecosystem.
So Rajesh, I know that you're not new to cloud either, right? I mean, you've got extensive experience in cloud. Before you joined Inovalon, you were running the cloud practice for Oracle, and then you spent a considerable amount of time at Amazon and in Amazon Web Services. So I understand all of this is actually provided on a SaaS cloud-based model, and you also have an add-on service which is your Inovalon Data Cloud as well. So how does all of this come together to kind of provide a lot more transformative healthcare solutions to your patients and as well as to your customers who use it?
It's a great question, right? Like we talked about the fact that we've got all of this data from all of these various sources. Obviously, when you have that amount of data, you need to have the ability to sort of store that data and then process that data. With the kind of data that we have and the volume of the data that we have, it's increasingly hard to be able to manage to be able to do that, with a computer that you're running yourself, and that's where cloud technologies really sort of start being the answer to that challenge. The fact that we've run these high-scale systems in the cloud sort of has allowed us to kind of now go say, we have the capabilities to run complex analytics against millions and millions of input sources of data that are coming in and run these analytics in real time to be able to produce the outcome that we can. So the cloud has become this sort of core transformational technology to enable this sort of this data to improve that healthcare outcome in some sense. So that's kind of been the approach that we're starting to take. And obviously my background in cloud has kind of helped drive that direction. And that's really what got me interested in kind of coming over to help in this domain. So our data cloud offering really takes all of this data that we've kind of accumulated through these experiences and makes it available essentially it's super important for data to have a set of governance applied to it. We're not going to be sharing anyone's data with anyone else unless the appropriate governance has been applied. But it's really important for us to be able to leverage the ability that we have a certain amount of data to improve that patient's life. It's also really interesting for a drug company to be able to go say, I've identified certain patterns in a certain class of patients that I can then use as input in my next drug trial. So you can see there's a ton of these examples of where the fact that we can actually build this data and build this longitudinal view of patients, really from every interaction that they've had in the healthcare ecosystem, we can bundle all of that together and end up providing better patient care and back to our goal of improving outcomes and sort of just doing a better job in the really complex healthcare ecosystem. I
mean, the product sounds extremely mature, robust, and it kind of gives you that one single view, right? I mean, if you have to draw up, the patient's history, then you've got everything there, right? From their diagnostics to the medicines to the tests to, the visits back to the care provider. I mean, that's fairly interesting. But I'll do a quick pivot. And if we look at most organizations, I think large parts of where you want to move or further build on your foundational platform is all about talent. And over many years, India happens to be a key hub or a talent hub where you will find high quality product talent as well as data talent that is available here. And you've had a very interesting journey in India. You've not been the traditional you've not taken the traditional journey where you say, I'll come, I'll evaluate, I'll set up a greenfield GCC. Instead, you had an existing team that was working for you, and you insourced all of them, and they came with the tribal knowledge of partnering with you in building the platform. So I want to understand, with this team already here, and you've got a sizable team here in India with over 350 people, how do you plan to kind of, enhance, grow the platform? What role does the India team play into the larger vision that you have for Inovalon?
It's a fantastic question. We're really excited about the talent that we've sort of been privileged in having from our India team. We're making a big sort of shift in our approach, though, to kind of double down on our investments in India. In addition to actually leveraging the sort of existing talent we have, we're now bringing in leadership talent, senior leadership talent in India, with the intent that we actually want to kind of hand over business problems entirely to the India team, and have the India team kind of run what I think of as a full service representation of a solution to that problem, rather than having to kind of work with someone in the United States on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, we want the India team to own the entirety of the problem and the solution associated with the problem. And for that, we need the senior leadership to be based out of India, to be entirely running the teams in India. So I'm really thrilled that we managed to bring in as strong a leader as Veera Vijayaraj. Veera has had fantastic experiences in the past working at high-scale companies like Oracle and AWS. And Veera's hiring here is a signal that we really want to bring in that sort of high-scale talent that actually not only expand our capacity in terms of getting work done, but also help in expanding our problem-solving capabilities entirely out of India. So that's the big shift we're making in India, and we're in some sense inverting the natural way of doing things, as a lot of people here do. So India continues to sort of be a great source of capacity for us, but more importantly, India is now a source of real problem solving, because we're kind of bringing critical problems to India. A couple of those examples are, India is now becoming the hub of our cloud transformation. We're in the process of being an entirely SaaS-based cloud-native technology platform, and that technology platform is really being driven out of India. In fact, that's the organization that Veera is going to be operating. We're making a bunch of investments around AI ML, and we're looking to have India set up as a center of excellence, really, for our AI ML investment. So India is really critical to our success in our mission.
I think you check all the boxes when we think about value arbitrage. Great global capability centers, which are actually set up for success, kind of check off a lot of the things that you spoke about. Global leadership based out of here, who've got access to end-to-end value creation. We're talking not just about a simple part of the process or a small part of the program or platform development, but actually owning the larger end-to-end, platform build-out, architecting it, designing it, and then building it out. So while you're poised for all of that success, and you did touch upon some of the capabilities, what I did want to ask you was two questions. One is, how do you see reverse innovation? So India and Hyderabad in particular has a large startup ecosystem. Yeah. How do you plan to leverage them? And two is, you did touch upon a thing called problem solvers, and that's the kind of people that you're looking to hire. What kind of, and what attributes do those type of people exhibit? And is there anything else that as capabilities or type of talent that you'd like to hire?
It's a great question. The common sets of attributes among people that I think of as problem solvers are folks that kind of don't want to just take a certain task and go say, I'm just going to go do that. They're actually looking at the reason for that task to exist in the first place. And they're kind of expanding the box that most people think they're operating in and saying, no, let me go understand the real problem that we're trying to solve here, right? And then let me bring that sort of critical thinking, the real engineering mindset to the problem itself, and then go apply different techniques, mechanisms, whatever it is, to go solve it. So I think of these kind of engineers as force multipliers. They kind of are real sort of out of the box thinkers, and usually you see this sort of talent certainly in the world over, but in India, you see a sort of a preponderance of this talent more so, which is what we're really excited about. So the kind of talent that I think fits into this box, certainly in the domain that we're looking at, are folks skilled in distributed systems, folks skilled in AI, ML, folks skilled in sort of big data type of problems. Usually, these are relatively senior engineers and leaders in technology. Bringing that class of talent in, we think will actually help that sort of approach of taking an entire business problem rather than part of a problem and kind of like delivering a solution to that entirety of the problem. So that's kind of our approach, and that's the quality of the talent that we're looking for here in India as we grow.
It's if I draw parallels to something that somebody told me a while back, there's a room that gets suddenly flooded. Mm-hmm. There are two people who walk in. One person says the obvious, which says there's water in the room. The other person says the tap is broken. Mm-hmm. So I think you want to hire the person who says the tap is broken.
It's a wonderful analogy. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yes. So slightly coming down, and we've had a quick conversation before we got on to be talking further today, and I did get to understand that at times when you like to unwind, music is what you actually reach out to, or a sort of a music buff. So mm-hmm. I want to understand, what's the genre that you favor?
There's a great question, and I like to think of myself as as somewhat of a discerning music buff. I particularly favor sort of metal and rock and roll. That's kind of been my vibe for a while, which surprises a lot of people. But that's kind of what I've done to kind of unwind myself, and I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of people who have similar tastes as well. So it's just part of enjoying life, as it were.
Thanks, Rajesh, for your time. Great, insightful conversation. I got to learn a lot more around the Inovalon One platform. Mm-hmm. It kind of gave me a view into how you're creating this one single view across both your payer, provider, pharmacy business, mm-hmm. And getting them all together to actually create better patient care and also reduce the economics around healthcare. Great knowing you as a person as well. I think it's been a great conversation so far. So thank you so much, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Take care.